Every year, college football fans watch their favorite schools in hopes that their team will be crowned the next NCAA champion. As the season winds down, the selection process takes place. 70 teams are divided into 35 different bowl games based on their performance in the season. The range of bowl games goes from immortal glory in the BCS championship game to even the Rose Bowl championship, but then to the less glorious and less famous bowls such as Franklin American Mortgage Music City Bowl and Beef O'Brady's Bowl St. Petersburg. Probably never heard of those before. Just as these names of these bowls are a little bit ridiculous, so is the financial payoff or prize money that teams receive for attending bowl games is. I would like to propose that moving the NCAA football postseason from a postseason to a playoff system would be more economical for the NCAA football program than a bowl system. I'll do so by claiming 3 simple facts. 1, losses occur due to teams participating in bowl games. 2, more games create more revenue for schools. And 3, distributing money from tournament play creates competitive equality without leaving schools with nothing. But first I want to explain how you make money in these bowl games. First of all, I kind of want to explain the difference between a bowl game and a tournament. The bowl game, 70 teams are selected and 35 games take place. Each team is given a set amount based on what bowl they qualify. For instance, the Beef O'Brady's Bowl, you make $1 million if you participate. The National Championship or BCS Championship game, you can make upwards of $25 million. And that team is guaranteed that money. In an NCAA basketball, like March Madness tournament, 64 teams are selected, 62 games are total, and each conference makes money based on the amount of teams that are admitted and then divided among the conference. Those teams then, if they do well, they get more shares of that money that they would have made. So now I want to kind of explain those 3 points. Losses occur due to teams participating in bowl games. Randy Chua, business and sports columnist for Investopedia, states 43% of schools in the division generate negative median net value of $2.87 million in losses. Whereas in the NCAA program, there's with the tournament system in place, there's a net loss of $975,000 total over all the teams. So that's a $2 million difference in losses based on a tournament play. For instance, Virginia Tech would have lost $1.3 million in 2008, $2.2 million in 2009, and $1.6 million in 2011 had the ACC not stepped in and subsidized a portion of their losses. Point number 2, more games create more revenue for schools. As we know, more games, more opportunity. That creates merchandising, tickets, advertising. A study was shown that on procom.org that says 43% of Americans say that football is their favorite sport to watch, more than 3 times of any other sport. So, with that in mind, we look at the numbers that March Madness made. Gene Folger, assistant researcher for Power Zone Trading, LLC, states, during the 2010 basketball tournament, CBS earned about $651 million in advertising revenue, falling behind only to the NFL playoffs, which generated $793.8 million in the same year. So as you can see, that tournament made a ton of money. And if there can be more games in a football, where football is considered to be watched 3 times more than any other sport, you can imagine how much more that money would be if football created the same tournament system. Another note to be taken into consideration is the total economic impact in the host cities for the 5 BCS games in January 2010 was estimated at more than $1.2 billion just for 5 games. So you can imagine at $1.2 billion for 5 games, if we had 62 games in a tournament, how much more money that the NCAA programs can make and teams can make following that. And point number 3, distributing money from tournament play creates competitive equality without leaving teams with nothing. But when it all comes down to it, most teams don't want to go to this, or go to a playoff system because they would make more money supposedly with this bowl system. Because LSU, as for instance, made over $22 million this last year in money from a bowl game. It's quite a bit of money to give away or to distribute. But Alicia Jessup, writer of the Business of College Sports.com, states, and this is attributed to the NCAA March Madness tournament, that conferences that make $15 million or more and distribute it tend to have the most competitive schools. For example, you have the Big East, the Big 12, Big 10, Pac-12, SEC. And then when you look at these conferences, they have the most competitive teams and therefore make great games. So with all that considered, the last thing I want to consider is last year's Sugar Bowl. Arkansas and Ohio State signed game contracts requiring them to buy blocks of 17,500 tickets. And at the end of the day, the Razorbacks came up $342,000 short on their unsold tickets, while the Buckeyes ended up eating $150,000 in ticket sales. Add in expenses, and even though they received $3.9 million in combined payouts from the BCS, Arkansas reported a measly $5,000 profit, while Ohio State made $280,000. That seems like a very small payout for such, a big recorded game. And this is why I think that going to a tournament play where money is distributed between the conferences would be very beneficial. And I think that they should get their classes.
Gesundheit. Okay, the intro is good. You identify the proposition very clearly. The secondary issues are laid out. I think your phrasing on that first point needs to be a little bit clearer. Your internal signposting is fine, so all the organizational issues are pretty good. I do think that you need to have a little bit more analysis. I'm not exactly sure why the number of bowls is going to be, or the number of games in a tournament would be substantially different than the number of bowl games. And there seem to be some presuppositions built into how successful those games would be at drawing folks. And the idea of a tournament, for instance, I think there are some other complications that you need to think about as well. For instance, if you're in a tournament, a team advances. If there are 4 games, if you qualify for the round of 64 or whatever, and then you have to go to 4 games, that's a lot of traveling for fans and the teams that they have to do. I don't know what the expenses on all of those things would be to get to the national championship. Sounds like you might be spending a big chunk of whatever you won from that. So it's an interesting idea, but I'm not sure that it has all been worked out as clearly as you seem to think it is. The analogy to the NCAA basketball tournament is an interesting one, but the basketball team's revenues, I'm not sure how they are in comparison to football's revenues during the year. And, of course, their expenses are likely to be substantially different as well. So there might be some issues there that are problematic. Thank you. You did a nice job speaking to us as well. All right.